Good evening, and welcome to the 2026 Candidate Forum for West Bend's Common Council Districts 1 and 7 Alderperson in the Washington County Circuit Court Branch 2. Tonight's forum is presented by the West Bend Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters of Ozaukee and Washington Counties in partnership with the City of West Bend. My name is Andy Niebler. I am a former chairman of the board of West Bend Chamber of Commerce and board member, as well as a partner with DeWitt Law Firm, which is a proud member of the West Bend Chamber of Commerce. It is my privilege to serve as this evening's moderator on behalf of the Chamber and the League of Women Voters. I extend a warm welcome to our candidates and our audience. As the largest business association in Washington County, the West Bend Area Chamber of Commerce represents 500 local businesses and organizations. The Chamber's mission is to promote, advocate, connect, and educate its members, fostering a thriving business community that benefits the entire West Bend area and its residents. We encourage business owners to join the Chamber to support initiatives such as tonight's forum. Both the West Bend Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters are nonpartisan organizations and do not endorse any candidates. Tonight's forum is being live streamed and recorded by West Bend Community Television. The recording will be available on demand via the City of West Bend's YouTube channel, with links also provided on the West Bend Chamber of Commerce website and the League's websites. This election includes 4 aldermanic district seats, with District 1 and 7 being the only contested races. Additionally, on April 7th, voters in Washington County will be voting for the Branch 2 Circuit Court Judge position. This evening, we will hear from the 2 candidates for District 1 Alderperson and one of the candidates for District 7, and the 2 candidates for the Washington County Circuit Court Branch 2. Questions in the forum were solicited in advance from the public through an announcement in the local newspaper and the League of Women's website. The League and the Chamber reviewed, categorized, and selected questions relevant to the positions being contested. The primary goal of this forum is to provide voters with an opportunity to learn more about the candidates, understand their perspectives, and make informed decisions at the polls on Election Day on Tuesday, April 7th. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to an informative discussion. The format for tonight's forum will be as follows. All candidates will be seated alphabetically at the chamber or at the council desk. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks and 2 minutes for closing remarks. The candidates will be asked questions by myself and questions that have not been provided in advance to the candidates. Each candidate will have a maximum of 2 minutes to respond to each question asked. Candidates will be asked in a rotating order. The West Bend Chamber of Commerce is committed to providing a professional, courteous, and impartial environment where candidates can share their views with the voters of West Bend. We appreciate the candidates' cooperation in adhering to the time constraints and yielding the floor when directed. We will now begin the candidate forum for the West Bend Districts 1 and 7 Alderpersons. Welcome to the candidates from District 1, candidates Neil Fulton and Travis Prindle. And welcome to District 7 candidate Justin Model. District 7 candidate Bill Schmidt was invited to participate in tonight's program, but informed the chamber that he was not be available to attend the forum. Tonight, I have 7 questions to ask each of our candidates. Gentlemen, before we get started, do you have any questions? Okay, then we will start with the opening remarks. We will begin with District 1, and I'll ask Neil for you to do your opening remarks.
Thank you. My name is Neil Fulton, and I am a teacher at Catholic Memorial High School. I'm also, for the past 2 years, been the chief election inspector for my district, District 1. I am running because I would like to see West Bend improve and be the best that it can possibly be. I served in the Army for a little over 20 years, and while I was in the Army, I got my bachelor's degree in social science and my master's degree in history. And I currently am a member of the worship, safety, and security team for my church, St. John's Lutheran Church, located on Main Street in West Bend. I want West Bend to be the best it can be, and I have several policies that I would like to change to do that. However, I want to hear from my constituents, my city, to know what they want to make West Bend the best that they can see. Thank you.
Travis Prindle, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Travis Prindle. I moved here in 2020 from the Milwaukee area, drawn by great city, affordable living, and love the lifestyle here. I was educated at University of Wisconsin-Whitewater to be a teacher. After I served 3 years as a tank commander in Desert Storm, I did not go to the sandbox, but I was stationed in the United States. Throughout my career I became a manufacturing leader, and I am now a manager in warehousing and manufacturing. I've never held an elected position before, except I'm a proud secretary of the West Bend Kettle Trail Blazers Snowmobile Club, so I am active locally. I am also a volunteer for Big Brothers and Big Sisters here in West Bend, and we enjoy taking a young fella around and doing stuff with him. Why am I running is a lot of questions for that. I felt compelled when I found out our current alderman is retiring from this position, urged by friends and family members alike that you seem to be pretty up on everything and very concerned, and why don't you do something about it? And I said, well, okay, what's it involved? And I found out the information to get into this, and so I want to focus on proper use of our taxes, keep our tax burden in the city under control, and focus on the things that we all benefit, like roads. So thank you very much.
Model.
Good evening. My name is Justice Model, and I am running for 7 alderman. Pardon me for reading. It just keeps me on track. First of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, the League of Women Voters, and the City of West Bend for sponsoring this event. In these small elections, opportunities to draw a distinction from your opponent are hard to come by. In the upcoming election, however, the differences are pretty clear. As alderman, I always did my best to vote on the agenda with my constituency in mind. I have an excellent source for thoughts and opinions, being a local hair guy, and believe me, I hear all about it. I treat this position as intended, nonpartisan, and unaffected by entrenched ideologies. I don't like the idea of only representing one portion of my district. You'll never please everyone, but anyone that knows me knows that I will die trying. The past 2 years have reminded me of why I ran the first time. Barton deserves a fighter that will pester administration until we get equal treatment. I haven't heard anything from others that suggests that they're focused on Barton at all, referring to hiring someone and voting to increase spending on roads as accomplishments. Well, I could not agree more that we need to spend more on roads, more to get roads done. I think it's worth pointing out the increases in spending on roads over the past 8 years became a matter of established policy. That's why when I talk about what I've done for my district, I mean the things that required physical action on my part, not just yays or nays on preconceived policy. Anyways, I truly believe that we're all here because we care about this city and wish to serve our respective constituencies to the best of our ability. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we will start with question 1, and we will start with Neil for the first. And if you need me to repeat the question, just ask. For the first question, what do you see as the primary role of a member of the Common Council, and how should that role differ from the responsibilities of the mayor and city staff?
Well, thank you for the question. As an alderman, I know that I'm taking the role of legislature. The mayor is the executive branch of the city, and aldermen are the legislatures of the city. I feel like the mayor has the whole city in mind whenever he makes a decision. As alderman, I also have to keep the whole city in mind, but my district has a little bit more of a highlight to me. I have several policies specifically to my district that I want to get accomplished during my 2 years as alderman, and I would like the opportunity to put those proposals into action. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis? Do you need me to repeat the question?
Nope, I think I got it. What does an alderman mean, and what do we do? Obviously, the city has basic rules, responsibility to its citizens. The alderman group is a group of 8 people on a chamber. The mayor is kind of the head of that group. The city is responsible for public services like our fine police department and fire department. The aldermen are responsible to make sure that we take care of the city in the most responsible manner possible and fund those primary services to keep everybody healthy and safe in this city. I have benefited from such outstanding service as a citizen before I even considered this role. And I consider that vital to keep what has been going on absolutely funded and prolonged, to keep it going. I don't want to break what's broken, but I want to make sure we keep it going. And the mayor is a slightly different role. Of course, alderman is a group of 8 where the mayor will overrule us or be the deciding vote if it's a tie. And that's all that works. Thank you.
And Justice? Do you need me to repeat the question?
I think I understand the question. Yeah, having been on the council for 6 years, I got a chance to watch a few mayors in action, and it seems to me that the mayor's role as elected representative of the entire city is to establish policy as it pertains to the entire city. And as aldermen, it's our job to inform our constituents about that potential policy and what the upcoming agenda might be, and find out what their opinions on that particular policy might be. So it gives the constituency an opportunity to maybe disagree with the mayor or have an opportunity to add or detract from whatever the agenda might be. I think it was both roles are vital. Every city does it a little bit different. I think it's great that we've got a city administrator as well as a mayor. As long as we keep a part-time mayor, we've got to have an administrator. And there's a lot of proof out there that you never know who's going to get elected, and we don't want somebody running the city who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Yeah. Anyways, that's about it.
All right, thank you. We will go on to question number 2. We'll start with you, Travis. What unique perspective or strengths would you bring to the Common Council if elected?
Well, thank you. With my 30 years of experience as a manager in many roles throughout my career, one, I bring a strong sense of leadership. I understand what needs to be done. I take care of what has to be done. People count on me every day to answer the call and get things done. I also understand fiscal responsibility. You have to live within your budgetary means. You have to understand cost of analysis, return of investment, everything you have to look into in the future and understand. A big part of what this council will do is looking at the city budget and understand long-range planning for funding of projects, taking care of the city and looking at our budget. I think with my role as a manager in my professional world, I'm well qualified to look at that and understand what happens and how to vote appropriately.
Sure. Yeah. I think I like to think that I established that in the first 3 terms of my being alderman. I am passionate about the people, businesses, environment, and history that make up the Barton neighborhood of West Bend. I've worked my butt off constantly on community gardens and parks, and with the help of the HBBA and its membership, got the dam lit up with 3 high-powered LED lights that cost around $19,000 and installed bike racks to make us more bike-friendly. We donated $5,000 to installation of the bison sculpture in the Firefighters Memorial Park, and much, much more. Anyone that knows me personally and or followed my political career knows that I'm the best man for this job. Despite the sleazy tactics being employed on social media to try and undermine my integrity, I believe the people of Barton are smarter than that and will let what they already know about me be their guide.
Thank you. Neil?
Yes, I feel like I can bring leadership to the city as well. My 20 years in the military, 8 years overseas in combat, I feel like I've been a proven leader. I'm also a teacher of history, economics, and criminal justice. So obviously I support our police and fire department. I understand the hard economic truths of a city like West Bend, and I'm very dedicated to maintaining the history of West Bend and growing it to make it the best it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to question number 3, and we'll start with you, Justice. What issues matter most to you in your district, and how do you know these priorities align with the needs of your constituents?
Well, I've spent the last 2 months or so knocking on doors and hearing a lot about roads, hearing a lot about not just the condition of the roads, but people speeding on the roads. The good news is people in general, just like the last 3 or 4 times I've knocked on doors in campaigns, people in general are pretty happy living in West Bend, and in particular Barton, as far as I can tell. Can't speak for any other district, but and that's the good news. But of course, we always have issues to deal with, and I guess roads is gonna be the most relevant. There's certainly other things that we can work on at the same time, but I do have a plan for working on roads. It's a little more complicated to get into in 2 minutes, but there's I don't know. There's a lot we can do. I'd say roads. Yeah.
Thank you. Neil?
Yes, so I have 2 District 1 policies that I'd really like to get into, and 2 citywide policies that I feel need changing. The first policy, right by Green Tree Elementary, from 18th Street, or on 18th Street from Park to Larkspur Lane. Every day, parents park there and pick up their children coming out of the elementary school, yet there's no signage for a school zone. I understand that it's not directly adjacent to the school, but that's where the people of West Bend pick up their kids from the elementary school, and I feel that we need to make that a school zone. Secondly, I know my kids have addressed this to me and others as well. There's no secured walk path from Regner Park to go get a ice cream cone, or to cross the street on Main and Silverbrook. There's a flashing light that I've had many people say is a confusing addition to Main Street. And they don't know whether they need to stop or whether they can just go right through if they don't see anybody. That is a priority, keeping children safe. The citywide policies are renewing the sidewalk sharing costs with the residents in the city, and I think my my time is about up, so I'll leave it there.
All right, thank you. Travis?
Yes, thank you. I've knocked on approximately 500 doors now in this campaign. And yes, the absolute unifying number one concern is the streets and roads in our city. Absolutely. Now, how do we pay for that? Well, there's a lot of great ways, right? I mean, that's the big thing. It's like, I've heard an estimate that we could put $160 million worth into just the city of West Bend roads. Why is that? I think it's because long-term planning has not been in effect. The city council people come and go, the mayors come and go, but they don't have a long-range plan, what needs to be done in advance, and fund it and stick to it. The county supervisor board that I've talked to are working on just that thing to make sure this is sustainable and we keep it going and we don't forget about it when you lose an election and now it's no longer a priority. I live on Park Avenue, and every single person I've talked to 100% agrees that something's got to be done on that road. And so that is the top priority that everybody I've talked to, among other things, but our crime is good. Our police are great. The fire department gets there in minutes. But the number one thing is, how do we pay for these roads and do it responsibly without jacking up our taxes? And that's what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to question number 4, and we'll start with you, Neil. Describe a time you had to make a difficult decision involving conflicting viewpoints, and what was the outcome?
So as a teacher, there's many times when an opinion gets shared in class, especially as a social studies teacher, and I have to decide whether I'm going to redirect that student to their own parents, to scholarly sources, to all of these, maybe even my opinion on a situation. And I've always deferred to parents and their raising of their own children. I have a freshman, sophomore at West Bend West, and I feel like making sure that every teacher enables the parents to raise their kids as much as possible in West Bend values is the most important decision. So whenever I'm dealing with these tough decisions in terms of history, in terms of what's happening in modern day life, I defer to the school policy and to the parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis?
This is very similar to an interview question I use at work all the time. How do you resolve conflict? As a manager, you're generally brought to a situation where you have two parties with a large disagreement, which could turn into hostilities, and you can't have that in the workplace. As a disciplined manager, you have to understand both sides of the issue. There's usually his side, and then there's the truth in the middle. And I have to very carefully do an investigation. Something that's very important that both sides are vehemently engaged with. I mean, they're going crazy, and it come to blows. These kind of conflicts happen. People are different. And so you have to take a step back, get the facts from both sides before you make a proper informed decision. And that's how I adjudicate when I have issues with my own staff as far as conflicts, poor performance, behavior problems, things like that. So that's how I handle stuff. Examine both sides and then make a proper informed decision, not a knee-jerk reaction.
Thank you. Justice?
Yeah, it's a great question. Kind of gets at the root of a lot of what we're dealing with these days in politics in general. I remember during COVID, I was on the council, and I was getting called. We were approaching a mask mandate vote, and it had to do with whether or not people are going to have to wear masks if they came in any of the municipal buildings. And I was getting phone calls on both sides, bombarded, emails, phone calls, text messages. And it turned into such a political thing, and it felt like, if you vote this way, you're a Democrat. If you vote that way, you're a Republican. Well, I mean, it was just a matter of function. It was just common sense, Anyways, it didn't matter which way I was going to vote. I was going to get yelled at. So I did actually, I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I voted against people having to wear masks in the building. And I'd like to think I satisfied some of my constituency.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to question number 5. Housing is an important issue in West Bend. A recent study indicates the city faces a significant shortage of both rental and owner-occupied housing at a range of price points. If elected, what strategies would you support to address this shortage while balancing new development with the needs of current residents and the city's future growth? And we will start with Travis.
Well, that's a big question for sure. A lot of communities are facing that same battle across the country today. There's a lot of old housing, or there's a lot of housing that's priced completely out of the market for a typical young couple just starting off in life. How much should the government help pay for individuals' homes? How much should the government fund apartment buildings? Now, the local government for sure can assist getting these projects built, smoothing the pathways that get these projects started, helping with the fees, the permits, getting these projects going. But as a conservative, a fiscally conservative guy, there has to be a limit to how much the rest of the taxpayers need to pay to assist with these projects. Government can help make it faster and easier to get, but we can't make building materials cheaper. And I mean, those of us of a certain age know that. Remember, we used to buy houses for $50,000, $60,000, and now you can't touch one for under $300, and it's a cheap one. So, I mean, there's only so much we can do as a community, but I think we can encourage it and plan accordingly. There are housing developments and projects as the city is going to continue to expand. We hope to keep growing, building more population here with more work, more jobs, more businesses, and keep assisting these people to get into jobs. I know the city council just got involved with helping a relocation assistance program, which I thought was a fantastic program that they're going to implement. So more to come on that, I guess, but that's all I can tell you.
Thank you. Justice?
Yeah, keep implementing programs like that. It's hard to imagine with all these developments going up and all the developments that have gone up that we're actually still short on housing. But I started cutting hair at the homeless shelter every third Saturday a couple years ago, and it was odd to me to even learn we had a homeless shelter, but the more you watch rental prices rise and home ownership become further and further from anyone's grip, really, that's got a entry-level job or first couple years after college job, I fear that we're going to start seeing more and more people into the homeless shelter. I mean, that's an extreme example, but that is a problem in West Bend. We don't have a lot of housing for entry-level position type folks, and there's going to be people at younger ages in that category. There's going to be people in that category their whole lives, and they got to have somewhere to live. I'd like to think West Bend isn't going to be exclusive to folks just because they don't have enough money. It's just has a bad taste in my mouth. So I don't know what the answers are, right? It's something that's, like you said, stay tuned. We'll figure it out.
Thank you. Neil?
Yes, there was a Common Council meeting, I believe it was December, when you discussed housing. They said that West Bend has the potential to increase by 3,000 homes in the next decade. How do we make that the easiest and most affordable for the West Bend residents to do that. Supply and demand is always the economic driver, and if prices get to a point, developers will want to build in West Bend, and they do. I see it happening. I think zoning issues we can smooth over a little bit easier to make it a little bit more accessible to developers to grow West Bend's population. I think that making sure that we do it in a responsible way where we're not giving tax incentives to developments that aren't going to serve West Bend residents properly. I don't know about anyone else, but I don't really want to subsidize apartments that are still going to be charging West Bend residents a crazy rental price. We're trying to get everyone in West Bend a house, not just the ones who have the pocketbooks that can go wherever they want to. I just want everyone to have good, safe, and affordable housing.
Thank you. Move on to question number 6, and Justice, we'll start with you on this. How important do you believe diversity is to the future of West Bend, and how, if at all, should that influence decisions made by the Common Council?
That's a loaded question, huh? Jesus. I think it's inevitable. It's not something we can encourage or avoid. It's just diversity is in this room already to some extent, and can we expect to see more? Can we expect to see a variety of skin colors coming up in the next decade? Of course. I think it's a good thing. I think the more, for one thing, the food's going to get better. I mean, along with that, different people bring different ideas, different perspectives, and that can only be a positive thing. That's it.
Thank you. Neil?
Well, I think West Bend has always been a city of diversity. It's just a matter of perspective. We have German Fest. We have a great Irish pub. We just viewed all of these different diverse groups as a homogenous group now. We will always have diversity coming into West Bend and leaving West Bend. It's just a matter of how are we going to make sure that our culture, our history, and the essence of West Bend is preserved. Yeah, I have no issues with any community that loves West Bend for all the values and safety and education that West Bend provides, coming in and making it even better. And we need to embrace that. I don't think anyone who doesn't want a West Bend environment really wants to move to West Bend. And I am all for welcoming people who do want to be part of West Bend. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis?
Okay, well, diversity is inevitable, right? There are more and more people of different races and creed all over the place here. I've seen virtually I've seen Muslims walking down the street, fully covered burqas, like you see every kind. So diversity is already here. There's nothing you can do about it to prevent it if you would want to prevent something like that. So, they're here, and embrace them in your community and make sure, as Neil said, they also embrace us. The one thing that I wouldn't say about diversity, as long as it's not forced upon us. I don't want plane loads and plane loads of people forced upon us where we have to take care of them, and they become our problem. We've seen that in some of the larger cities in the last 5 to 10 years that have caused a lot of issues and a lot of hardship and spending out of control to take care of these new arrivals. So as long as West Bend keeps doing what they do, welcome people with open arms, again, enjoy all their food. I like that. And yeah, you can find any kind of great restaurant here and every culture. We have many festivals celebrating many different types of people here. And I like to enjoy them all and party on. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one last question. We'll start with you, Neil. If your campaign is successful, how will your election positively impact area businesses?
So I guess one thing that I've already addressed, making sure that there is a dedicated stop and go light in Main and Silverbrook will encourage I'm spacing out on the name, the Creamery, that restaurant there for ice cream. That business will increase, but also I see a great demand in West Bend for a lot of food trucks that go to different businesses like Menards and Walmart and whatnot. And I think that's a growing trend around the nation of different local food trucks. And I would be all in favor of increasing that in West Bend. Some cities have food truck festivals, and I would love to see that increase in West Bend. Down Main Street, I feel that we need to highlight the businesses on Main Street. We have the best farmers market in the state, but I don't feel like the local shops that are on Main Street are being highlighted as well during that time. And I think that we can do a better job encouraging local shops during the farmers market Saturdays. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis?
Well, if I'm elected, I'm elected by essentially my neighborhood. So every decision I make here as part of the city council affects me directly just as much as my next door neighbors, the people down the street, and everybody I've met that I talked to during this campaign. So that's why I'm trying to be an alderman now, is I want to help the city and also help myself be better and take care of our people, our facilities, our support structure, and just keep improving what we can. There is not a single little, such as specific goals like Neil has as far as, some of your neighbors have different opinion about that. But I just want to keep everything great and make it better, make West Bend great again. But that is just, I'm accountable. My neighbors know me. They know what I stand for. And when I say I'm going to do something, I get it done. And that's all I can stand for is, this is who I am. I'm going to serve the people in my neighborhood because I'm one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Justice?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. If your campaign is successful, how will your election positively impact area businesses?
Okay. I knew it was something along that line. I couldn't quite exactly remember the way you worded it. Well, very much like it did the last time I got elected. I became the president of the Historic Barton Business Association, and through that we did a number of things for the community, in the community, and for the community, not just to make the business environment better, but to bring the community together. We had a number of events, Barton Day, we had a dog parade one year that was amazing, brought fries on a regular basis. We supported any of the local nonprofit stuff that was going on. We'd pitch in and help with licensing and stuff like that if we could. And just being plugged into the city made all of that better, easier, more functional. And so it did create a better environment in the community for the constituency. So, and it also connected the businesses to the constituency, which was really nice. and I'd like to see that continue. We've had a beautification effort going on for 8 years now that for sure is going to continue, whether I get elected or not, honestly. But I think just being in office, it'll give me an opportunity at the end of, just an example, at the end of a council meeting, the mayor asks for aldermen to give a report. And I don't hear many aldermen doing it. I haven't heard Bill do it once. That's a perfect opportunity to highlight things going on in Barton, because we've always got stuff going on, you know, and especially during the summer. So I will certainly use that microphone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will just be doing closing remarks. Again, it will be limited to 2 minutes, and we will start with Travis.
Okay. As an alderman, I don't have all the answers yet. There's a lot of things that I don't know what's happening in this city, because quite frankly, I don't sit on the board, and there's a lot of things I need to learn. So making bold promises and statements, I'm going to change this and that, you can't do it until you're fully involved with it. And it's a board. It's not just one person. And so that's how I function as a team of aldermen here. So I just want to refocus again, is that I'm running with the focus on my leadership abilities, my experience dealing with people of all kinds and all the problems. And as a manager, people bring their problems to me and I solve them and I get them done. And you have to keep a sound mind, focus on the issues and work towards them and never quit. I will be working for a stable, responsible tax burden here. I don't want to raise taxes. However, if something incredible happens and the community needs it and it's supported by the community, then we can consider that at that time. And I just want to finish that I do have the support as the conservative choice in this election. I have the county supervisors on my side. I've met with a lot of key people in the county and the city, and I have the full support of many. And that's how I want to prove that. And thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Neil?
Okay. Well, thank you. I guess I got my bachelor's in one of the most liberal colleges in the nation, University of Maryland. I got my master's in one of the most conservative colleges at Liberty University. I have heard all different perspectives. I lived overseas for 8 years, talking to people from around the world, understanding their cultures, their communities, and how I can use that experience to make West Bend a little bit better. I served in the Army for 20 years, and I had to make sure that rural people from Mississippi worked well with people from the inner city of New York City. They were on the same team, and I had to make sure it worked. So making sure that all sides get heard and all people can work together is what I've been doing. 2 years ago, we knew our roads needed $100 million over 10 years. Now it's $160 million. We're not creating a plan that is sustainable for actually getting the job done. Chipping away at the main problem of West Bend. 2 years ago, everybody on the council said roads, 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 and we didn't do anything. If elected, I'm going to try to get that done. I'm going to try to grow West Bend, and hopefully that will grow our tax revenue. I don't want to increase taxes, but if we can increase our population, the taxes will come in and we can make West Bend better. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our Common Council Alderperson for. Oh, I'm sorry, Justice. Sorry, Justice.
Thank you. Yeah, now we're good. Okay. Again, I thank you for being here to get to know your choices for this April 7th election. I respect and appreciate everyone that has gotten up on this stage tonight to discuss our individual perspectives representing our constituencies. While I haven't heard anything tonight that convinces me that I'm not the best choice, for obvious reasons, I do have faith that we are all here and care. We all care and want the best for our community. As I said earlier, I'm all in on Barton. You can tell by my multiple addresses and business on Barton Avenue. So you will see me out working in Barton Garden or hanging up Christmas decor. Either way, I can just be so much more effective from a position within City Hall, as I said earlier. With a proven record as a former finance chair for being a fiscal conservative, always on the hunt for the best bang for our buck. Please vote Justice Model on April 7th in the first position on your ballot, but don't just vote for a select group of District 7. Vote Justice Model for all. It's okay.
Now, this concludes our Common Council Alderperson Forum. We extend our sincere appreciation to the candidates and their participation, commend their commitment to serving our community, and wish them the best in the upcoming election. We will now take a brief intermission as the candidates for the Washington County Circuit Judge Branch 2 prepare for their seats. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you so much.
I'm good. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening. We will now begin the forum for the Washington County Circuit Court Branch 2. Welcome to the two candidates, Honorable Gordon Leach and Mr. Grant Scaife. Say that right? Thank you. All right. Reminder of the format. All candidates will be seated alphabetically in the dais. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks and 2 minutes for closing remarks. The candidates will be asked questions by myself, and the questions have not been provided to any of the candidates in advance. Each candidate will have a maximum of 2 minutes to respond to the questions, and the candidates will be asked the questions in rotating order. With that, we will start. Gentlemen, welcome. We will begin with the opening remarks, and we will start with you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Gordon Leach. I'm the current judge in Branch 2 of the Washington County Circuit Court, the position that hopefully all of you are going to get out and vote on come April 7th. So I'm not just a judge, though. You know, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a veteran, and I'm your neighbor. Now, I wasn't born here in Wisconsin, but I did choose to come and live here. I decided to raise my children here back in 2004. I had been coming here since 1996 because I had family ties here in Trenton. So wanting to raise my children here, they were 1, 3, and 5, packed up the minivan and moved to Trenton. And I've been here in Wisconsin ever since, about 21 years. Now, I currently live in Germantown with my wife and 3 stepchildren. I'm an active member of our community. I go to church in Germantown with my wife. I belong to the American Legion down in Germantown, and I also belong to the American Legion Riders, the Sons of the American Legion, and the Marine Corps League and the Rotary, all right here in West Bend. I volunteer at our schools for children's activities as well. So I do these kinds of things because I think it's important to give back to our community. Now, before becoming a judge, I worked in a lot of different areas of law. I started my legal career in the Marine Corps as a judge advocate prosecuting crimes. After the Marines, I went into private practice and did civil law for over 20 years, representing businesses and people in courts in all kinds of various matters that come in litigation. Now, I returned to criminal law as a criminal defense attorney eventually, and then in 2022, I came back to criminal prosecution as an assistant district attorney here in Wisconsin. So from there, I went on to the bench last year. I bring over 30 years of professional experience as well as all of my life experiences and every one of these gray hairs I've earned over these years. But I bring that to the bench with me because I hope that that helps inform me to help make better and wiser decisions for all of the issues that the people of Washington County bring to me on the bench. So I thank you for making the effort to be informed here. I look forward to talking to you more. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott?
Good evening, everybody, and I want to thank the Chamber and Legal Women Voters also for having us out here tonight. My name is Grant Scaife, and I'm running for Washington County Circuit Court Judge Branch 2. I'm running because I think in Washington County we want judges here that are going to respect the rule of law, uphold our Constitution, and make sure that our families here are protected. A little bit about myself. I live in Germantown as well. I was born in New Berlin, Wisconsin. Went to West Dalesdale for high school, went to UW-Madison for undergrad and for law school. So I've been in the state of Wisconsin my whole life. Never left, never want to leave. I love Wisconsin. Met my wife up when I was working in Sheboygan County in the district attorney's office there. Been married to her almost 7 years now. Have a 3-year-old son that keeps us busy. So I'm busy at home being a dad. And I always tell people before even my current job, I'm a Christian father, Christian husband, father, in that order. I think that's really important to me. And I'm a prosecutor. I work in the Washington County District Attorney's Office. It's one of the best jobs you can have. You get to stand up for victims every single day. You get to fight side by side with law enforcement to protect this community. I've handled virtually every single type of case that you can handle as a prosecutor, anywhere from homicides to domestic violence to OWI cases to drug dealing cases. Really, really serious stuff. And I love doing that. And in that job, you can tell just how important it is to have a great judiciary, because judges are also have that significant responsibility for protecting our public. And they're our last line of defense to making sure that our community is safe. My commitment to you as a judge, if I get elected here in Washington County, is to always protect your family, always make sure your family is safe. I look forward to answering questions the rest of the way. Thank you.
Thank you. So both of you sort of answered the first question, but I'll ask it anyways. Describe your legal practice during your career, volume and areas of law. I will start with you, Gordon.
Thank you. So, as you heard, I started as a judge advocate in the military. I prosecuted military crimes at all levels, from things as silly, perhaps you think, as being late for work, because that is a crime in the military under certain circumstances, all the way up to attempted homicide. And I've had trials in those areas as well. In the private practice. I was practicing for about 35 years before taking the bench. I handled, as you heard, as a criminal prosecutor as well as a defense counsel, had many trials in many courts and actually in many states as well. And I've handled all types of crime, from lowest level misdemeanors all the way up to having a homicide trial just last year, successful. And throughout this time, I've represented people, I've represented victims, and I've always, of course, done my best to advocate for the people that I've represented, whether it be the state of Wisconsin or individual clients at the time. I've done civil work in employment matters, in civil rights areas. I've done business-to-business litigation. Pretty much anything that you can think of that comes into the courts, I've handled over the years before taking the bench. Thank you.
Thank you. Grant?
Thank you. So predominantly my career has been as a prosecutor. I detailed a little bit about that, what sort of cases that I've handled in my career. I always say, again, like I said, it's one of the greatest jobs you can possibly have, the amount of good you can do for your community through that role is unlike anything else. And I love doing that job. But I've also have experience working in the Corporation Counsel's office. For about a year, I handled exclusively dealing with children in need of protection and service cases and termination of parental rights cases. Those cases dealt with young kids all the way up into their teen years as well, that were in really, really challenging situations, really challenging homes. Either there's a mother or a father or both mother and father, maybe had substance abuse issues, maybe there was domestic violence issues going on in the home, and these kids needed help, and a lot of times they were placed out of in-home care and placed with foster families, and our job in the Corporations Counsel's office was to make sure that they had achieved permanence with a family, either back with their biological family or with their foster family. That was very fulfilling work as well, because you got to put these children in a position to have successful lives, and I really enjoyed doing that too. That was civil work as well. I also worked for a period of time in-house, actually, in Washington County. I worked at Regalware. When Regalware was up in Kewaskum, I think it's the condos up there now, is where I was previously. So I was involved in advising internal stakeholders on, contracts, purchase agreements, what sort of business decisions are good, risks, things like that. So I've had a wide variety of things that I've been involved with in my career. I think it makes me a good fit for the bench here in Washington County. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Please share your trial experience in both civil and criminal law and how it has prepared you for the circuit court bench. We'll start with you, Grant.
As far as civil law, the only thing that I would have had trial experience on would have been in the children in need of protection and service cases that I talked about earlier. Those cases are confidential, so I can't necessarily talk about the ins and outs of what the particular case was. But it involved whether a child at that time was considered legally in need of protection and services, to where the department could get involved, the Department of Health and Human Services could get involved to give services to that child and give that child an avenue to get some services. So I was involved in that. And the other question was in any trial? Criminal trial? Well, I've done maybe 35 to 40 criminal trials in my life. I remember distinctly one trial that I had that I'll never forget. It was a sexual assault of a child trial, and it was a young girl at the time who was 13 years old, and she had been sexually assaulted by a 18 or 19-year-old man, had been pinned down and raped after he had fed her alcohol. Horrible, horrible, horrible case. And I remember being in court with her, and she was so brave to stand up there and testify as to what happened to her. And she broke down in tears, had to take a break. We had to go step out in the hallway. I didn't think she was going to get back up there and finish the trial. I didn't think that was going to happen. But she had the courage to get back up there and do it and say exactly what happened to her, and we secured a conviction in a really, really challenging case. I hope I have the courage as a judge of somebody like that on the bench, because judges need courage as well. But I think as you go through these different trials, you deal with different legal issues. Generally, you pick up things along the way. I think my experience doing so many trials that I've done in my career will help me on the bench, as you'll see some of the same things as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honor.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure I've had well over 30-some, 40-some criminal trials alone. I couldn't even tell you how many civil trials and administrative trial matters, as well as jury trials, that I've had in 35 years. I've done, as I mentioned, homicide trial. I have represented the state in victim cases like domestic violence through trial. I've handled OWI cases at trial. And I've done these both as a defense counsel and as a prosecutor. In the civil area, I've done work injuries, I've done personal injuries, to include things like product liability and, for example, represented clients' mesothelioma cases, as well as run-of-the-mill personal injury matters. I've done trials over civil rights and discrimination. I have handle these cases not only at the trial level, but even through appeal, even up to the Supreme Court, both once in Florida as well as here in Wisconsin. I've also handled federal cases and tried cases in federal courts as well. So all of that experience really helps me on the bench because I've handled it from both sides, as plaintiff, as defense, and I see the different perspectives. And you have to understand the different perspectives when you come to the bench because you're not representing one side. You're not advocating anymore. You have to listen, and you have to understand what the different perspectives are so that you can make a well-reasoned decision that follows the law and serves justice.
Thank you. We'll start with now question 3, and Gordon, we'll start with you. Share a significant case you argued before the court, and what did you learn from it? If you guys can talk, I understand you can't say names sometimes.
Well, you know, one of the cases I think that I'll share was one that I wouldn't typically handle. But I ended up handling because it was involved a juvenile, a termination of parental rights. And it ended up being a week-long case. I got the case about 2 weeks before it went to trial. And it wasn't an area that I was completely familiar with, but I had to get up to speed. I tried the case, and we succeeded in the case. And I don't want to get into the facts of everything. But what I learned throughout that is that sometimes, you know, you don't know everything, and sometimes you have to learn a lot. As you do the job as a trial counsel, and that you have to stay focused, of course, on what your goal is and what you're trying to achieve. And in that case, it was trying to protect parents that were adopting this child that had significant needs and was involved, or wasn't involved, but there was a parent that was in prison and was trying to interfere and prevent the adoptive parents from being able to continue to raise the child where the child had been with them for 6 years. So it opened my eyes up anyways to, you know, understanding what you need to do sometimes in terms of adequate preparation, getting up to speed in time to be able to present the case, and sometimes just, you know, trying as hard as you can even when you don't know necessarily what you're doing. And sometimes that applies as you are on the bench when you face decisions that you haven't had to face in the past. And you've got to learn very quickly. You've got to absorb the information. You have to listen to all the parties and figure out what the right decision is. Thank you.
Thank you. Grant?
Thank you. I would say it was a case when I just started working as a prosecutor after I just gotten out of law school. It was an OWI. It was a OWI first trial or suppression motion with, if you remember, Dennis Milowski. We have some attorney judges here. They're going to know that name. He's an attorney that does with OWI cases. And I remember going into that hearing as a young lawyer, as a prosecutor, getting my butt kicked, is what I would say, in layman's terms, against Attorney Milowski, because he was so much more at that point in time knowledgeable and prepared than I was. And, you know, it really impressed upon me the necessity and the need to really prepare and get your case ready and to know what you're doing when you walk into the courtroom. And as a judge, it's the same way, that when you're out on the bench, you know, you should be looking at your cases ahead of time, knowing what's going on, knowing where this case stands, and adequate preparation is certainly something that I learned from that case. OWI laws are very specific, very particular. The nuances in those cases are very technical, and it takes a lot of preparation, but it's worth it at the end of the day. It makes you a better lawyer, and I think as a judge makes you a better judge. So that case always stuck with me, and it stuck with me the entirety of my career because it really told me the need and the importance of preparation. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to question number 4, and Grant, we'll start with you. What judicial philosophy will you bring to the court, and what in your life leads you to that type of philosophy?
Well, I think overall, as a judge, we should employ judicial restraint as a philosophy. So that would mean deference to the ones who make the law, that be the legislature, our statutes, and our Constitution. You know, as far as the separation of powers, we always have to be reminded as judges, we do not make law. We do not write the law. That is an entirely separate branch with our 3 branches of government. And that would be something that I would absolutely employ and use as far as a judicial philosophy. I think people are tired of judicial activism. I think people see that sometimes, particularly on our state Supreme Court as of late. I think people don't like that. And people want to rein in what our judiciary has been doing as of late, at least as in the state Supreme Court. As it relates to a philosophy at a trial court level for other issues, I always talk about protecting the public, holding people accountable. I've talked to so many people in the community while I've been out on the trail. Bail, sentencing are always 2 things before I bring it up that they bring up to me, that they are very concerned about, that people are concerned about in this community. And I think we need to prioritize those things. When you look at bail, you know, ensuring that monetary amounts are set appropriately given the nature of the offense and other factors the court has to take into consideration. Sentencing, the same sort of things that the court legally has to look at when fashioning a sentence in a criminal case. My philosophy is making sure this community is protected. You're going to be protected if you elect me on the bench. Thank you.
Thank you. Gordon?
Yeah, thank you. Pretty straightforward is, you know, my judicial philosophy generally is apply the law. You know, the judges, we don't make the law. We have to understand what the law is. We have to apply facts to the law. And that's what we do. I do that, I hope, holding people accountable for their actions and being firm, but also fair. And, you know, I think it's also important that when people come to court, they know that you are not biased, that you maintain an independence from whether it's political parties or special interest groups or whatever it may be, that parties need to know that you're making a decision based only on the law and only on the facts. And I think that's critical, and that's the way I'm running my campaign. That's the way I conduct myself on the bench and the way I'll continue conducting myself on the bench. So what leads me to those experiences, or what led me to that philosophy, is from my own experience in many different courts throughout the country, and the judges that I've been in front of, and the ones that I most respected were ones that were fair and impartial and did their best to apply the law as it was written. And one of the things I think also is that when I represented people and we lost, if my client knew that the judge was being fair, even though we didn't win the case, but they felt that the judge made a fair decision, they respected that decision. And I think that's critical. Thank you.
Next question, we'll start with you, Gordon, with this. In your experience, what factors have you taken into account relative to making a sentencing recommendation, and how will you carry that experience forward in your judicial decisions?
Sure, so that's actually, we have a law that says what we're supposed to do when it comes to sentencing. And my job is to follow that law, all right? So we have objectives, and the objectives that we're supposed to follow in sentencing, of course, is to punish for the person for the conduct, it's to address their rehabilitative needs, and it's to send a message of deterrence to others. We look at things like the gravity of the offense, the need to protect the public, aggravating, mitigating circumstances, and the like. And these are all set up by the law. So I follow the law. I'm told that that's what I'm supposed to achieve, and so that's what I do. And in doing that, I have to remember, you know, people don't go away to prison for life, even in serious offenses, but for some cases. So we have to address all these factors, which includes rehabilitation, and that all goes to trying to protect the community. We want to be firm but fair, I think. And by that, you have to try to impose a sentence given the tools that we have. And hopefully then that punishment, as well as any rehabilitation tools that we can use, will help deter not only this person, but other people from committing an offense. And I think that's, what we're obligated to do. That's what our duty is, and those are the factors that we have to follow.
Yes, so what courts have to take into consideration at sentencing is, it's already been laid out. It's the law that courts have to take into consideration: the nature of the offense, the need to protect the public, the character of the defendant, and again, there's some certain sentencing objectives that courts are looking to achieve whenever they sentence an individual. It really depends on the particular case. Is this a person that has a lengthy, long record that has been given chance after chance after chance? Courts are going to treat that person different than someone who's a first-time offender before the court. Is this somebody that has a significant substance abuse history need? That's going to be treated differently than perhaps somebody else before the court that is making decisions that are not because of that. I would say, though, you want a judge on the bench that really does have principles that they go back to when making these decisions, because all judges are supposed to follow that law. But I think we all know, just common sense, that if you have one judge look at one case, they sometimes will sentence somebody, same facts, same record, to a completely different sentence than another judge. And why is that? And I think we need to have principles that we operate off of, that I always say, I have constitutionally conservative principles, I will always stand for protecting the public. Nature of the offense goes into that. Need to protect the public, something the courts have to consider always. I think we need to have principles in those areas of discretion, and I would be committed to that as a judge here. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be the next question. I think somewhat answered, both of you answered this. Grant, we'll start with you. How does your answer to the last question about sentencing recommendations align with the state sentencing guidelines?
Well, as it relates to the state sentencing guidelines, there's only guidelines for some things. So there's guidelines as it relates to OWI-related cases in our district that we operate off of. Sometimes there are mandatory minimum sentences that the legislature has put into place for certain crimes where people have been convicted of those crimes. I guess you could call those guidelines. And then just generally, guidelines are the minimum and maximum amount of jail or a fine that a court is allowed to sentence somebody to as enacted by the legislature. So, for instance, a misdemeanor crime could be 9 months jail maximum. I suppose that would be considered maybe a guideline. Our job as judges is to follow the law. So we have to act within the confines of what the legislature has put into place. And so, for instance, if there is a mandatory minimum sentence on a case, which some cases have that, such as possession of child pornography, for instance, that has to be followed, or else we're breaking the law, and I will never do that. For instance, there are other cases in where there's presumptive minimums in which maybe someone's impaired and drives drunk and kills somebody driving drunk. There's a presumptive minimum in a case like that, and judge has to weigh that and figure out what an appropriate sentence would be. But again, my philosophy here is rooted in making sure we put people on a path to where they can be redirected to more pro-social activities, and our community can be protected in conjunction with everything about the case. I can't prejudge a case without looking at it. But that's always the goal. Make sure that people are held accountable, but redirect them so that they're not back before us. Again, we want people to go on and live happy and successful lives, and we can do that via our sentencing here too. Thank you.
Thank you. Gordon?
Yeah, so the guidelines really are what we were just talking about, those objectives, as well as the factors that the law tells me that I'm supposed to follow. And for the 7 to 8 months that I've been on the bench, that's exactly what I do, and every time that I sentence someone. And it can be many times a day throughout the week, many weeks on end. So, what I do and how I follow those guidelines is I walk through and I identify those objectives, and I prioritize which objectives are the most important given the facts and circumstances of the case, to include things like is it a violent crime? Is there a victim? Is there a need for payment of restitution? I look at the gravity of the offense. How serious is this offense, and has it caused someone harm, physical, property harm, things like that. I look at what can I do, what need is there to protect the public, and how can I fashion a sentence to do that. I consider the character of the accused as well as the aggravating and mitigating circumstances, because those are the guidelines that you as the people have told us as the judge that we have to follow and need to consider. So I do that by taking the information in from the state, the prosecutor that is, and from the defense counsel. I can't go out and get my own information. They have to give it to me. That's the role of a judge. And then I evaluate those objectives and these factors, and using my words in court, I explain, I decide what the sentence should be to meet those objectives based on those factors, and then I explain each of those objectives and the factors in sentencing. I explain my sentence and why I believe that this sentence will meet those sentencing objectives. Well, that's how I do it.
Thank you. Next question, we will start with you, Gordon. If elected, what will be your approach to setting bail?
Well, we have a law on bond, actually. Bail is a cash component of a bond, and a bond, when someone's arrested on an offense and they're held in custody, they then come into court, and a bond, it has one overall objective according to statute. Again, we have to follow the law. The overall objective of a bond is to assure that the defendant returns to court if they're released. So you can put them on what we call a signature bond, where they don't post any cash, but they promise they'll pay a certain amount if they don't come back to court or otherwise violate conditions of bond. Or we can use a cash bail under certain circumstances, particularly where it's a violent offense, for example, or we think that it's necessary to use cash as a tool to assure that the defendant comes back, perhaps to assure that the community is protected, to send a message to that particular person that they need to comply with the conditions of the bond. And we can also set conditions of bond as well that we think are important to protect the public. For example, like no contact with a victim. Don't go back to the store that you're accused of shoplifting from. Things like that. So my approach is to follow the statute on bond, and to do so in a way that, as best as I can, under the information that I've been given from the state prosecutor as well as from the defense counsel, to enter bond conditions, including cash bail where appropriate, to assure the defendant returns to court, and to also protect the community in cases where there's a potential for harm. Thank you.
Thank you. Grant?
Yeah, so bond is governed by Chapter 969 of the Wisconsin statutes. It's laid out right in there as far as what are the factors the court can consider as far as setting conditions of bond. One of those would be a monetary factor, that'd be cash bail. And then there's a variety of other factors the court can look at, such as what are the connections to the community, what's the nature of the offense that the court's looking at. With some offenses, the legislature amended that statute to add in some offenses that are violent in nature that the court can take into consideration when setting whether to set cash bail or not, that the court can look at now. I would take all that into consideration when setting bond in a case. The primary purpose of bond, of course, is to make sure someone comes back to court. I think the challenge is when you see cases where people have 3 or 4 open cases and they're coming back and they're getting signature bonds and things like that, or low cash bonds, and if they repeatedly keep picking up cases, I think from a judicial perspective, that's a concern because it shows that this person is not somebody that's complying with court orders because they keep picking up new cases. And that's something that we unfortunately, see sometimes in the district attorney's office and in our court system. Bond is another one of those areas of law where they give guidelines to judges, but I think how one judge handles it versus how another judge handles it is really an area of discretion. I think you might have one case where a judge could look at the same factors and give a totally different bond than another judge would. And so, again, we got to be very rigorous on applying these things and, again, making sure always that our community is protected by using cash bail. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with you, Grant, with this. Please give an example of a bias in a court case and how you would ensure impartiality when a case involves the appearance of bias?
An example of a bias in a court case?
That's the question.
Well, I mean, if you're a judge and you have some sort of connection to a party that's in front of you, whether it be personal or whether it be familial, I mean, there are certain recusal rules that a court has to have, that a court can't hear a case. Or another example would be, say you're hearing a case where maybe somebody contributed to your campaign if you were running and you get money. That's obviously something else that a court has to take into consideration when hearing a case, if there's an appearance of bias in that regard. I think judges are usually pretty good about knowing, hey, when I look at this case, is any of that stuff going to have an impact on whether I can be fair and impartial? Because that's, at the end of the day, the end goal. Can you be fair and can you be impartial on this case? I think as a judge, if you think that looking at this, I can't be fair, then you shouldn't be hearing that case, and you should be recusing off of that case. If it looks like to other people from the outside that you can't be fair and impartial, that's something also to consider, that maybe doesn't control everything, but certainly something to consider as well. I think a big thing with all of this is we want to make sure that we have maintain our integrity in our judicial system. That if we have people thinking our judges are biased, that destroys integrity. I don't think we have that here in Washington County, thankfully. I really don't think we have that at all. And certainly I would not hopefully continue that legacy of not having any of that stuff pop up. Thank you.
Thank you. Gordon?
Yeah, so, it's really important to avoid any actual bias as well as even the appearance of bias. Again, judicial integrity means you want the public to be confident in the results and that the results aren't arbitrary or due to bias. So certainly when you have a personal interest or something, in a matter, you recuse, as we call it. You get off the case. But you also have to do things that assure that, the parties aren't bringing in a bias. And you do that by making sure that everybody is treated equally, that parties are given the same ruling, the same law applies to the people no matter who they are or what they may associate with. And you keep your own personal biases in check and make sure that they don't play a part in any of the decisions that you have. I think another thing, though, is also making sure there's no appearance of bias. And part of that, I think, is what I believe, at least, through my campaign and what I do on the bench, that there are, you see the Supreme Court races, and I think a lot of that is politics in the courtroom, or at least bringing politics into the courtroom, and I think that's wrong. I think part of judicial integrity is to keep politics out of the courtroom. And I frankly think partisan politics have no place in a judicial campaign either. That's why I don't belong to a political party, and I'm not seeking any endorsements from politicians or special interest groups either, because I think that can present the appearance of bias if people come to court and think, oh, you're the judge that was this or that. And I think that's really important to judicial integrity, because it's not just bias, but it's avoiding the appearance of any bias so that people have confidence in your decisions. Thanks.
Thank you. One last question, and we'll start with you, Gordon. What do you like about the law?
Well, I like studying the law. It'd be nice to say I like certainty. But, there are areas of the law that you can feel nice and comfortable with something certain. But certainly there are other areas where you're not so certain and you have to go out and find out what it is. I enjoy that whole process of finding out what the law is, understanding it, and of course having people come in and applying that law to the problems that people bring to you. And it's when you feel like you've done it properly, when you feel like you've applied the facts to the law and you come up with a result, again, that is free from bias, is based on the facts and is based on the law, as a judge, you can feel really good about that decision. And I like the fact that the law is varied. In Washington County, as judges, we handle every kind of case. Some counties, judges are very specific. They do family law or they just do criminal. Here, we handle everything. We have 4 judges, right? So I get 1/4 of every kind of case that comes in the door. And I enjoy that because there's a lot of variety to it, and there's a lot to learn. And, it's very interesting being able to interact with the people in the community, even if it is trying to solve problems and dealing with very difficult situations. But, this is an area where you can do a lot of good, and I enjoy that. Thank you.
Thank you. Grant?
Well, first of all, the law is just, on its face, it's interesting. I think anybody that's in the legal practice, I think, would say that. There's always twists and turns. Well, there's a lot of ambiguity in things, and things change. We get new cases every year that come out that modify what we thought we knew about the law. New scenarios come to play, and it's just a very interesting area to work in. But I also think the law obviously it's the bedrock to the foundation of this country. I mean, the United States Constitution is the law, and that is the bedrock. That's the thing that gives us our God-given and inalienable rights. I always tell people, the most incredible document outside of the Bible, in my opinion. It really is. It's unlike any other constitution or any other founding document anywhere around the world. And and it's survived all of these years. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And we have to keep the principles of that alive, though. I think there's obviously if we start bending and twisting our Constitution to where it doesn't become recognizable anymore, or we can't rely on it anymore, like we've seen sometimes as of late, that becomes a problem. No, the law is always fascinating. I've always enjoyed it. I've always loved it. And you can do, as a judge, you can serve the community using the law and your legal skills and training. And I hope to do that if I am elected to the bench. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the question part of this, and we will move into the closing remarks. And Grant, I will have you go first.
Sure. So I want to thank you guys again for allowing me to come here and talk to everybody and answer some questions tonight. It was really nice to get some of those questions and get a sense of what people are thinking. Again, I'm running because I offer a different option in this race coming up here. And I just want to go through some people for the viewers that are supporting me in this race, because I think it's important. These are people that I work with or that know me, would know what I stand for. I'm sorted by 5 separate law enforcement associations, 4 of them specifically in Washington County: the Hartford Police Association, the Jackson Professional Police Association, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, the Kettle Moraine Fraternal Order of Police, the Milwaukee Police Association. These are a lot of officers that I work with, boots on the ground guys that I work with every single day that see my work as a prosecutor, and they think I would be a great judge. I'm supported by Sheriff Marty Schulteis, our fantastic county sheriff, supported by other law enforcement like former City of Hartford Police Chief Scott McFarland, supported by the District Attorney Barry Bratz, supported by folks that people know like Josh Showman, our county executive, supported by folks like Scott Hankey and Lisa Budish, supported by 6 of our state representatives, 19 of our county board supervisors here in Washington County, supported by judges and justices that people trust, people like Justice Annette Ziegler, people like Justice Rebecca Bradley, people like Judge Maria Lazar are all endorsing me in this race for this election coming up here in April. These are people that I've talked to that know me, that know what I stand for, and I think it's powerful when you look at that. And you see these are people that, again, are legal icons that have sacrificed their career for the good of this state, and they're supporting me in this election. And I'd ask voters, again, to do their research in this case, to take a look at the candidates. Again, I think I offer a different option here from this race, and I'd be grateful for your vote here coming up on April 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Connor?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out to learn more. I hope I've been able to talk to you a little bit about my experiences because I think they're important. It's both my professional and my life experiences that I bring to the bench. And I think you'll all know that as we have more experiences, we learn more, we make better decisions. Because frankly, the decisions that I make today are different from the decisions that I was making after just 10 years of practice. I'd ask you to take a look at not just endorsements, but look at testimonials. You can take a look at my webpage. You'll see a lot of people that provided testimonials. These are people that are judges that held this very position that I'm in here in the county. They're attorneys that I've worked with side by side or even across the table from. And they tell you not just, hey, vote for him, but they tell you why, and they tell you a little bit about me and my work experience, my ethical experience, and other things that I think you'll find helpful. But I haven't sought endorsements from politicians, again, because I think that politicians and special interest groups, they don't belong in the courtroom, and that their influence in the election doesn't belong either. So make your own decision. It's like a box of cereal. When I was a kid, Wheaties used to put, athletes on the cover of the box. But just because an athlete, a gold medalist told me that the Wheaties were good, that didn't mean that Wheaties were good. You got to read the label, and you got to do the same thing here. Make your own decision, because there are no returns or exchanges in this election. It's a 6-year term. It's an important decision that you have to make. So keep in mind that our judiciary here handles not just criminal cases, but cases of all kinds of matter that come to court. And it's important to think closely about how our justice system works, too. Each player in this system has to be committed to its unique role. A judge is not a legislator, is not a police officer, is not a prosecutor, and is not a defense counsel. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our 2026 candidate forum. On behalf of the West Bend Chamber of Commerce, we extend our sincere gratitude to the City of West Bend Community Television, and the League of Women Voters of Ozaukee and Washington Counties for their partnership in making the forum possible. We also thank our candidates for their participation and commend their dedication to public service. We wish them the best in the upcoming election on April 7th. To our audience, we encourage you to become informed about your entire ballot and make your voice heard in the general election on Tuesday, April 7th. A valuable resource for learning more about the candidates is vote411.org. That's vote411.org. A national voter guide provided by the League of Women Voters with participation from our local chapter. More importantly, please go out and vote. Thank you and good night.